In this video, I want to show you how you can quickly get started with the Sudoku Generator beta. So once you download the zip file from Gumroad and extract it, it should look a little bit like this here. And then all you want to do is just double click on the Sudoku Gen here. And now our first option you'll see is to set our difficulty. Now our difficulty is basically set by the techniques needed to solve each puzzle. And here we range from easy all the way up into insane hardness. And of course you can set your own custom difficulty if you so wish. Our next option here is our save as. So we can export our puzzles as PNGs, BMPs, JPEGs, and obviously we have vector, SVG and PDF. Our next option here is for our grid algorithm. Now most commercially available puzzles, unless they have very few clues, are symmetric, but you can also choose shuffle here. Our puzzle algorithm. Now, unless you want to set the number of clues you want in your puzzle, I recommend you keep this in RMax, which is just random max, but you can also choose random and symmetric if you want to change the number of clues you have in each puzzle. Our next option here is our type. So we have 9 by 9, which is the traditional Sudoku. We have 16 by 16, which is the hexadecimal one, and 25 by 25, which uses the letters of the alphabet. Our next option here is how many puzzles do you want to create. Type in any number you want. 10. Our start index is our puzzle numbering. So at 0, it means our puzzles would be numbered puzzle 0, puzzle 1, puzzle 2, so on. But you can change this. So if you put 5, first one will be puzzle 5, then puzzle 6, 7, 8, and so on. Our next option here is our puzzles per document. Now, what this enables us to do is to have multiple puzzles per image that we export. So you could have 6 in one image, for example. But for most people and most instances, you probably want to keep this on 1. Our next option here is to set our background. Now we can set a color, or we can have transparent here. Our next option here is a grid per puzzle. Now what that means is, if this is selected, a new random grid is filled with numbers for each puzzle, whereas if it's unselected, it will use the same puzzle but randomly remove numbers in a different location or a different order. Our next option here is if we want to have our solutions made, which we typically, for most instances, you would, so I'd leave that ticked. And then our final option in this little bit here is use cached puzzles. So when it's generating, what it does is if a puzzle doesn't meet your requirements, it saves them in a database. And what you can do then is just tick this option next time you run it, and that will enable faster generation of your puzzles, because it can use the ones that didn't meet the criteria last time but do meet the criteria this time. And in our options here we have our puzzle prefix. So basically what we want to call our files. So Sudoku, then we have Sudoku 0, Sudoku 1, Sudoku 2, and our solution will have solution 0, solution 1, solution 2. You can of course change these. And after this, we can choose our puzzle folder. So that's just a folder that our puzzles are saved into, which is puzzles by default, which you can see there, and our solution folder, which is solution by default there. Our next option is we can have a header at the top of our document. and we can choose the font and the alignment. Again, typically you might want to use this if you're doing more than one puzzle per document, but if you're not, I would generally leave that alone. Our next option here is for our actual puzzle and the size of it. So the cell size is basically the resolution of the grid. So the higher this is, the larger the image you will generate. And in proportion, then you would need to increase the pen width, which is the thickness of the grid. Now, our next option here is our puzzle per line. So if you're doing your puzzles per document at, say 12, you might want to have 3 puzzles per line or 2 puzzles per line. If you're only generating 1 puzzle, what you'll need to do is just leave this as 1. You can choose our pen color, which is typically black. You want black. And then with puzzles margin, what you can do is increase the margin in the grid so that the numbers don't get sucked in by the grid. And again, you can choose a background if you want, or leave transparent. You have an option to include solution here in the actual main document. So you have the puzzle and solution next to each other. Again, for most purposes, you probably want this unticked. And then we have our option here to choose our font and our font color and styling and sizes. And then here we have an option to include a title. So this is for both the puzzle and the solution. Now, typically you probably want to leave this the same. Basically, you'll have puzzle, the puzzle number, the difficulty name, the difficulty value, and the amount of clues in each puzzle. But you can, of course, change this if you want. And the same for the solution as well. Our final option in the document section is to choose the size of our font and the styling and the color, of course, there. And then finally, we have the option to add a footer on our document. Again, if you're only doing 1 puzzle per document, typically you'll just want to leave this as is. So now we've just briefly gone through our settings. Let's generate some puzzles. So just click generate here. There we go. So now if we go into our puzzles, we can see our 10 Sudokus and our solutions. I hope this quick overview of the Sudoku generator helps you get started. Thanks for watching.